Hi, my name is Wyatt, and I just got accepted to become a missionary to Japan with Send International. And I just wanted to discuss what it looks like to apply to become a missionary. So before I begin, I want to say that applying to become a missionary is not like applying for a school or a job. A good mission sending organization wants more missionaries in the field. They want to see the Great Commission fulfilled. They want to see the gospel reach the ends of the earth. And so for them, the application process is not so much them attempting to determine who is and isn't fit to become a missionary. Rather, it's them determining what needs to happen so that they can get you into the mission field in a safe and healthy way. So in theory, it should be an incredibly encouraging process. In practice, getting through the application process was actually incredibly grueling, anxiety-inducing, and stressful. At least for me it was. See, the missionary application process differs from other applications in that the sending organization wants to get to know the real you. They're not willing to settle for your professional persona. And the only way to really get to know somebody is through lots of time and lots of conversations. So for me, the entire application process, from the time I started talking to Send to the time that I was appointed, took 10 months. So nearly a year. And what makes this really stressful is that you're only supposed to be applying to one sending organization at a time. So you're really just putting all of your eggs in one basket and just praying that things don't fall apart. As for the application itself, it could be broken down into 3 parts. First, they requested a personal biography. Then there was a Bible exam, and finally there was a psych eval. And each one of these elements was terrifying in their own special ways. First, there was the personal biography. And this was terrifying because they actually wanted a biography. This was particularly stressful for me because I didn't become a Christian until after I graduated college. And so there's a large chunk of my life that is defined by nothing but foolish and sinful choices. However, if I was going to be honest on the mission application, I was going to have to share all of these things with the mission board. And that was not something I was excited to do. So the second part of the application was a Bible exam. And going into this, I was feeling really confident. See, not only do I read my Bible every day, but I'm also a seminary student and I love debating theology with other Christians. So I figured I had this part of the application in the bag. But I was wrong. You see, the exam was a closed book Bible memorization test, and it had questions like this. In what verse of the Bible does it say that Jesus died? A. Mark 11:30, B. John 11:30, C. Mark 15:37, or D. John 15:37. Do you know the answer to that question? I do now. Not at the time, however, and so it turned out to be one of the most humbling Bible exams I've ever taken in my entire life. Finally, there was the psych eval, and this was the part of the application I was most worried about because I knew it was either going to make or break it for me. Ultimately, a sinful past can be forgiven and Bible knowledge can be learned, but mental health troubles can only really be resolved through lots of time and intentionality. And like I said, I don't have a squeaky clean background. There's plenty of mental illness in both sides of my family, and I was really worried about that coming out in the application and just ruining everything for me. And to top it all off, I've spent the last 4 years working as a hospice chaplain, and I just couldn't imagine a world where someone who spends the majority of their time with dying people would necessarily score very well on a psych eval. So while I knew that Send wasn't going to disqualify me because of my family's mental health struggles, I was really worried that they were going to say something like, hey, we want you to go home, work on yourself for a while, and then apply again in a year. And hearing something like that would have been really devastating because I had already spent 8 to 9 months in the application process up to that point. So about a month after finishing the psych eval, I got to the final interview of the application process. It was me, my pastor, and about 12 people from Send International on one big Zoom call. These people knew all of my secrets, Everything I was ashamed of was out on the table, including a really truly terrible Bible exam. And they accepted me. And not only did they accept me, they said the best possible thing. And that was, hey, you're not a perfect person, but we're not looking for perfect people. And that was the perfect thing to say because, as much as I wanted them to accept me, I also wanted them to acknowledge the red flags that I had been throwing out. Those were things that I take very seriously, and I wanted them to take seriously as well. In Luke 6:40, Jesus says, "The student is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like their teacher." This is something that I kept in mind throughout the application process because whoever the people at Send were, if I joined them, ultimately that would be the kind of person that I would become. And so however Send treats people is how I would end up treating people as well. Send International responded to some of my deepest vulnerabilities with grace and compassion. And that's awesome because ultimately that's how I want to respond when God presents me with vulnerable people. And so I can be excited moving forward for not just one but two reasons. First, I'm going to Japan, this mission field that I'm just super passionate about, but also, and probably more importantly, I'm going to Japan alongside brothers and sisters who emulate what I consider to be the most important of biblical qualities. And not only do they emulate those qualities, but they will help me develop those qualities. And well, that's really important because at the end of the day, I've got a long way to go. So anyway, thanks you guys for listening to my story. I think the application process was really interesting, and obviously I spent a ton of time in it, so it's just something I love to talk about. Please stay tuned for more videos, and please be sure to like and subscribe. Doing that helps the channel, and helping the channel helps the mission. So yeah, hope to see you guys next time.